This is 3 young dogs, one pretty far along in training. I still call him a started dog, but as far as this kind of activity, he's been doing it for a while. He should not make very many mistakes, but he still might because he is young. And the other 2, this is their first time to do this kind of thing. Ruby, they do plan to work her with another dog, so her learning to take cues when they're for her and not just because she heard a cue. Pickle has what I would like to call impulse control issues, so she just hears something and she thinks it's for her, or she wants to participate, so she jumps off. Same thing for Audie. I think he's still pretty young. He's about 18 months old and he's a male, so he's just starting to realize that he's a teenager and he's starting to push some boundaries, and he's just always very excited to go and do. So just any kind of mistakes he makes are probably going to be from impulse control. So I just want to put him in a position of control and then work on their recall, and then what I'll do is I'll walk them around with me. There are cattle in here, so until I tell my dogs to go to work, I expect them to just be with me, not to leave my side and go find work for themselves. I am using treats right now, treats being a bag of kibble, so nothing high value or special. I'm just going to kind of reward them for being able to maintain their position while they have other distractions in here, and the other dogs are the distraction. And then the cattle, of course, but I kind of decided to do this exercise after I already had cattle sorted. And there are sheep over there too, so they have plenty of stuff to distract them. Audie, Audie, Audie. So then learning when I call. When I call one dog is not a cue for the other dogs to move. And then also when I give a correction, so you can see he went back up on his place because he thought the correction was for him. Audie, Audie. Good boy. So he went back up on his place. I kind of had to walk her down just a little bit to get her stopped, but I just want to get the response to pressure that I want to see from her every time. And so if every single one of these dogs bailed off their place, I would growl and put pressure on them physically, get them all stopped, and then get them back up on their place. Then I can reward these 2 for staying. As you can see, there's not a big to-do over the reward part of it. I simply walk up to the dog, hand them the treat, walk away. No big deal. Their chance to work is coming, and that should be the part they're excited about, not necessarily this, even though this is a bonus. For coming off of there, he just happened to get the barrel that's kind of smushed, so it doesn't like to stay upright anyway. So as long as he made an effort to correct it and he got right back up there when I righted the barrel, I didn't get on to him for that. Pickle, Pickle. And then she should stay with me. Verbal correction every time she got distracted from following me. So my word is hey. And then if she showed me the response that I wanted from her, I released the pressure and called her with me again. So just correcting what I don't like and then telling her what I do like when I have her attention. It's the same thing. This is all the stuff I do off stock and on stock. Ruby. Ruby. With this exercise, they get to practice a number of things. They get the name recognition and the recall, practicing staying on their place with distraction. They get to practice walking around with me with distraction in the pen. So there were cattle over there, and each time we stopped near another dog to give them a treat, they should ignore the other dog and continue on doing their job, which at that time the job is following me. So it's just a good little exercise, and then we can just ramp it up at any time. Audie, Pickle, Pickle, Ruby, Ruby. So she's getting a correction for moving when I called the other dog's name. Ruby, Ruby, Audie, Pickle. Same thing. So they don't get to move in on the treats of others. They just have to wait their turn. And then now I can switch their buckets up, and I probably won't switch him, Ruby, because he got the messed up bucket. Pickle. And he's further along, so he should be okay with that. Audie. But this is also a chance to practice them being in the vicinity of other dogs. They have a job to focus on, so they need to focus on that. Ruby, Audie, Pickle. And I give treats as they're still, and I just kind of give them a little correction if they're acting too interested in anything else going on. With me, with me, with me. Ruby, Pickle, Pickle, girl. Ruby, Audie. Pickle. Place. Place. Ruby. Place. Audie. Place. So I really can't stress this enough. Like, the core of all of this is really getting your dog to respond to your correction, and that's at any level. So even on a leash. But basically, I guess the thought process behind this. So that's a good response to my correction. He knew what he was supposed to be doing. He made a choice to do something that wasn't what I asked. I verbally corrected him, and he said, okay, I'll go back to what I was supposed to be doing. If he had stopped and just looked at me for direction, that would have been okay too, because then I could have redirected him to the place. And then if he did it more than once, I would escalate that to where I did not ask him to go back to the place, but I physically took his collar and put him back there and made the experience a little bit unpleasant. So you have to think about, how many times am I having to remind my dog to do this? Because if it's a multiple times, then your dog is either not understanding the correction, doesn't have an idea of what you're asking, or you need to escalate. This is going to be something that I do with these dogs throughout the time here. So days that we're not on stock, or in between times where we are on stock, I'm going to work their obedience like this, and I'm going to work it to where there are more and more distractions, and it's harder and harder for them to remain where I left them until they fully understand what the task is that they're supposed to be doing and how to do it in a way that I'm happy with. So again, for me, the place is that they're up there. They can stand, sit, or lie down. They can move around. They can turn, but they cannot vocalize, and they cannot get down until I call their name. So those are my two big rules for the place. So this is a good picture right here. 3 young dogs who are relaxed. They're aware that they might be called to duty at any point in time, but they're not frantic about it. And hey. So there's your perfect example. I said if he did it again or if he was doing it repeatedly, I was going to escalate the correction. So in that case, I said, hey, and I walked at him and I did not release any pressure until he stopped motion, and then I physically put him back on his place, and I expect that will change his attitude enough to where we don't make that mistake again. But if it doesn't, then the correction will have to escalate. He's been doing this long enough. He knows what place is and he knows what his job is up there. So I know that it's fair for me to correct him for that.